It's my favorite time of the year. Some people are like, oh, Justin, must be tough. Must be tough this time of year. It's like, excuse me, no. We get to talk about nonsensical things, hypotheticals, rankings, food debates, all sorts of stuff. And thanks to media days that are currently going on in college football. By the way, programming note coming up in about 2 weeks. From tomorrow, we will be broadcasting Rip City Mornings live from Big Ten Media Day in Indianapolis, Indiana. So that's going to be coming up in 2 weeks from tomorrow. But we've got the Pac-2 Media Day coming up later on tonight, live from the Bellagio. And we are almost to the point, almost, and almost is a very key word in that phrase, almost to the point where the football world is going to move on from the Pac-12, the Pac-10, the Pac-8, what it used to be. I'm not quite there yet as a person who loves the sport of college football, who grew up in the Pac-10 conference and then became the Pac-12 conference. But there will be a time, right? There will be a time where the looking back and going, boy, what could have been, what happened? Well, but today's not that day because we have now new news. New news. Apparently, the destruction, demise, the collapse of the great Pac-12, which became, again, the Pac-10 after USC and UCLA left, was it potentially destroyed by just $2.5 million, which I know to you and I, and unless we've got a billionaire listening, that's a lot of money. That's a significant amount of money, $2.5 million. That's a life-changing amount of money in the world of college football. That is what they call a drop in the bucket. That's a paperclip budget that's just what I think some schools pay for Instagram in their recruiting departments, that $2.5 million. But it turns out that the foundation, shockingly, of the Pac-12 conference was not the sturdiest. And that Brett Yormark and the Big 12 found a weak link, found a weak spot in the foundation, and for a mere $2.5 million, was able to collapse a once great institution that has been around college athletics for over 100 years, but all it had to find was one. So we'll dive into that. And there are two teams left over from the rubble. And that is, of course, Oregon State and Washington State. They've got Pac-2 Media Day coming up tonight. It's going to be an interesting approach. Marketing, promotion, how you present yourself for these two schools is going to be key. Not just for the next 2 or 3 months, but maybe potentially for the next 2 or 3 years. And I'll just go ahead and say it. Two schools that aren't really all that great when it comes to marketing and self-promotion. That's how you got in this mess. What's the strategy? So we're going to dive into that coming up in about 15 minutes because you've got the media days going on tonight, and you have got a season ahead where you have to be very, very careful. So we've got that going on. Speaking of college football and media days, let's just do it right now. We're 5 minutes into the show. Brenden, you got the Mike Gundy quote from yesterday. So, all right, let's set the scene real quick. Was it Oklahoma State's running back? I believe it was one of their
Ollie Gordon,
Oklahoma State running back, and what was it? A couple of weeks ago, got a DUI. And that is, again, not ideal, not the best case scenario, especially in a world with Uber and Lyft and, I don't know, cell phones and 50 different ways to get home. But not a surprising thing in the college football world. But most of the time, player gets DUI, coach suspends player, coach has team meeting, and usually, depending, again, I've been around college football enough to know, like, how good you are, How good you are depends on how much you get punished. Simple as that. Maybe not the most ideal, maybe not the most fair system in the world, but welcome to the world of college athletics. Welcome to the world of competitive athletics. And sometimes coaches will be like, yeah, he got a DUI over the summer. He's been stripped of a captaincy. That's happened before. Or certain players he's been suspended for one game. Which game is he suspended? Northwest Louisiana Tech. You know what I mean? Like Mike Gundy, by the way, Ollie Gordon was the Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year in 2023. So if you want to know like what kind of caliber of player we're talking about, he was arrested on suspicion of DUI June 20th. Gundy stressed that Gordon was lucky that neither he nor anyone else was injured. But Gundy talked about yesterday, said he's going to play. I'm going to do what we think is best for Oklahoma State football, and I think what's best for Ollie is to play. If there's any punishment, it's making him carry the ball 50 times in the first game. Now, you would think after a player gets a DUI and a head coach makes that statement that would be the most absurd thing to come out of Mike Gundy's mouth yesterday. Hold my beer. And if you do hold my beer, get an Uber home. Mike Gundy went on to talk about what else factored into his decision to not suspend his star running back after getting a DUI just a week and a half ago. Here's Mike Gundy's explanation.
First, I thought, okay, so I looked it up on my phone. What would be the legal limit? Like in Oklahoma, it's .08, and Ollie was 0.1. So I looked it up, and it was based on body weight. Not to get into the legal side of it, but I thought really 2 or 3 beers or 4. I'm not justifying what Ollie did. I'm telling you what decision I made. Well, I thought I've probably done that 1,000 times in my life. And it's just fine. So I got lucky. People get lucky. First, I thought.
Yeah, just when
people get lucky? That sounds a little insensitive.
All right. First and foremost, I understand enough about college football coaches to know that they live in a college football bubble. And it could be very understandable if Mike Gundy had no idea about what recently happened with Kyrie Jackson, the tragic death of the former Oregon defensive back, and what was set to be an NFL rookie who was, by the way, days away from reporting to NFL camp in a tragic car accident where him and 2 of his teammates were run off the road by a drunk driver. I can understand where Mike Gundy might not have that idea in his head. So I'm not going to sit here and be like, well, but I am going to sit here and be like, wait, just a gall darn minute. Did Mike Gundy just do his own research? Did he just become a physician and a legal scholar? So his explanation for why, and here's what's so dumb about it, other than what he just said. Here's what's so dumb about it. Brenden, Oklahoma State opens their season against South Dakota State. Week 2, they play Arkansas.
Hey, the Jackrabbits are a solid program.
They are a solid program.
That is Oklahoma State will win, but give the Jackrabbits some credit.
That is true. They are a solid program, but they are not a Power 5 school. Yeah. They are not
for sure.
They are not an FBS school. But they're a solid program. Okay. I don't even know if we have a currently right now, Oklahoma State's a 9-point favorite in that game. A 9-point favorite, which
that's some respect for South Dakota.
It is some respect for South Dakota. But if you take Ollie Gordon out of the Oklahoma State lineup, they're still more than a touchdown favorite in that game. Just suspend him. Ollie got a DUI. Can't have that in this program. He's not going to be playing against South Dakota State. He'll be back for Arkansas. And you do the whole thing. It's like, but no. Instead, Mike Gundy did what I think a lot of college football coaches will do more than we said the quiet part out loud and rationalized his player getting a DUI because he had done it in the past. And here's where it gets so stupid. Would you what if now I know Mike Gundy used to play football at Oklahoma State, right? I'll bet you Mike Gundy fumbled the ball at one point in time in his career. Would Mike Gundy accept a football player fumbling the ball, running to the sideline, going like, oh, boy, that was a really important possession. But you know what? I've done that a couple times, so if I've done it, I can't get mad at you. I'll bet you Mike Gundy as a player got a penalty or two. I bet he got a stupid penalty or two. I bet he got an emotional penalty or two. Anybody that's played competitive sports, is Mike Gundy going to accept that from a player coming off the sideline after getting a stupid personal foul? No. You're going to chew him out up and down. No. The thing about it, too, that really like brings it home of how stupid that was, I looked it up on my phone. Stop expecting college football coaches to be smart because not all of them are. Most of them, quite honestly, are not. I looked it up on my phone. It's based on body weight. And it came down to 1 or 2 or 4 beers. Well, the difference between 1 and 4 beers is a lot.
Which is it?
With regard to driving, especially. All right. So there we go. We got the dumb Mike Gundy thing out of the way. We might dive back into that a little bit later. We have got more. We got Pac-2 Media Day preview coming up next. 620 Rip City Radio. Well, we have learned a new tidbit. And as it turns out, shouldn't be surprising to any, because in big money corporate lawlessness and post-apocalyptic zombie world that we live in college football, because that's what it has become with corporate greed. It is dog eat dog. It is every person entity for themselves, and it's just business, right? We hear that all the time. It's not personal. It's just business. But we learned a new little tidbit in the collapse of the Pac-12 conference, and again, some of you might be like, Justin, we've heard it all. And you might be right. And some of you might be like, Justin, it's time to move forward. Is it? Is it time to move forward? Because, again, I think much like when we all asked our 8th grade history teacher, shout out Mr. Bayless, why do we have to learn this stuff? It's already written down, and it's because every history teacher's favorite response, which is, the only way to predict the future is to know the past. You must know the past. Those who don't learn the past are doomed to repeat it, right? We heard that over and over. Which teacher loves more, like, when I was growing up, and it's probably much different, I don't know if you ever got this, our math teachers love telling us, well, you can't use a calculator on a test because when you use a calculator in real life. And boy, were they wrong on that one. And then history teachers love those who don't learn history are doomed to repeat it.
They were the same for me. I remember them
they
pretty
love
well.
saying that.
That's a very good crossover right there.
So, as it turns out, the college football realignment was more like Game of Thrones than we all thought, right? It was not just about being opportunistic. Even though it was, but it wasn't just about being opportunistic, and it wasn't just about survival. While it was for some, it wasn't solely about survival. As we are finding out now, the Big 12's ultimate goal, when they saw the Pac-12 teetering, I don't want to go through a whole history lesson because most of you know this, but you go back 2 years ago. 2 years ago, USC and UCLA announced, we're going to the Big Ten. And like, whoa, what is going on? And it felt like there was going to be a seismic shift in college football because Oklahoma and Texas were going to the SEC, USC and UCLA were going to the Big Ten. And you're like, and then, okay, calmer waters came, and it was like, all right, the big giant collapse isn't coming. But there was a moment a couple of years ago where you were like, all right, is the SEC going to keep going after teams? Is the Big Ten going to go after teams? And by the way, they were. It just didn't quite get done. So then a year later, seeing the landscape, seeing the money, the TV exposure, and everything else, Brett Yormark, who is the conference commissioner for the Big 12, saw he had one big problem in being able to compete with the Big Ten and the SEC. Because the Big Ten and the SEC, boy, when they got USC and UCLA, you know what that gave the Big Ten? Coast-to-coast coverage, baby. And when the SEC went and got Texas and Oklahoma, you know what got them? Two of the biggest names and powers in all of college football. Now, the SEC wasn't coast-to-coast, but they were pretty close. And they were coming into the Big 12 and stealing their two biggest names. So the Big 12 is like, how do we stay in this? This is where the Game of Thrones stuff comes in. Because if you watch Game of Thrones, not House of Dragon, even though it got better this week, a lot of talking. But if you watch Game of Thrones, right, it is all about, A, securing your house, whether you are House Lannister, whether you are House Stark, whether you are, what were the other houses there? Brenden, help me out.
The Boltons.
The Bolton, yeah. Ramses? The Ramsey?
The Greyjoys.
Ramsey was a Bolton. And whether you one of those, and then, of course, the Targaryens.
Yep.
Yeah, you had to keep your own house in order. But you know what else you had to do? The destruction of another house paved the way. That's what the Lannisters did, and that's what the
100%.
That's what the Big 12 did. As we are learning, again, Mike Gundy said the quiet part out loud. The quiet part out loud with conference realignment was reported because somebody flipped through the agreement. Now, they didn't hide it very well, but in the where was the number? I think it was a 40-page agreement of Colorado, because remember, Colorado was the first to leave. They were the first to defect. They were the ones, they're like, Colorado shall be joining the Big 12, which should have known something, because remember when Colorado, it's funny when you look back now and go, what was going on there? Remember when the Pac-12 Media Day was going on last year in Vegas? And I was like, boy, that's going to be weird with USC and UCLA. And then Colorado had Dion, and there was
he was sick, wasn't he? So they say.
Well, he had blood clots, and he had a procedure that he had to do. And anyways, it's funny looking back because George Kliavkoff, the now former Pac-12 commissioner, he was putting a spotlight. It's like, okay, we might have lost USC and UCLA, but we got Deion Sanders. We've got primetime. And he wasn't wrong about that, because everybody couldn't stop talking about Deion in July and August and September. Stopped around October, interestingly enough, after Oregon ended that. But all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it's like, whoa. Why isn't Deion Sanders going to be at Pac-12 Media Day? He's the biggest, not the best team in the conference, but in terms of the bright lights and star power and getting some eyeballs on your conference when it looks like your conference is teetering on. Was Coach Prime not going to be at Pac-12 Media Day in Vegas? Vegas, bright lights, big city. Deion, super uber celebrity. Boom. Let's get some eyeballs and let's get some Pac-12 mojo. Deion Sanders shall not be at Pac-12 Media Day. He's going to send an assistant coach. Well, that's interesting. Well, we would find out that a couple of weeks later that Colorado is going to intended to join the Big 12 Conference. And now we found out that they were given a $2.5 million signing bonus. USA Today is reporting this. Brent Schrotenboer. Hope I'm saying that name right. Sorry, Brent, if I butchered your last name. But USA Today did the digging. They found there's a $2.5 million signing bonus. Now, remember, Colorado left, and the FOMO, the fear of missing out or fear of being left behind, caused a collapse of Utah, Arizona State. And then, of course, the Big Ten pounced and was like, well, hey, Oregon, Washington, you come our way. And then we know what happened with Washington State and Oregon State. Did the whole thing come crumbling down over $2.5 million? And a weak link in the house. Now, we could go back and I could continue to go, boy, that was interesting and that was interesting. But as it turns out, one of the sweeteners in the deal to get Colorado to join the Big 12 was essentially a $2.5 million signing bonus. Now, if you also remember where Colorado athletics was, they essentially had to hire Deion Sanders on the credit card. They didn't have the money to pay Deion what he is getting paid. They paid him on the credit. Their AD came out and said as much. They're like, yeah, we're going to go into debt a little bit because we believe on the other. So because Colorado wanted to hire a celebrity who wanted to play peewee football at the biggest level so that he can put his kid into the NFL, had to put that contract on the credit card. That, alongside with a lot of other things going on with the Pac-12 conference not being a serious conference, showed just how vulnerable they were. And the Big 12, House Lannister in this whole sordid saga, pounces. They smelled weakness from Colorado, and they pounced. Now, why do I bring this up? It's like, Justin, it's over. Pac-12's done. I understand. You think it's going to end with this? You think it's going to end here? You think it's just like the Big 12 is like, oh, yeah, so we got our teams. Well, the Big 12 still doesn't have what they were looking for, which was coast-to-coast representation. They still don't have anybody in the Pacific time zone. Except maybe, what's the deal with Phoenix? Like Arizona State, half the year they're in the Pacific time zone, half the year they're not. Regardless, they still don't have anybody on the West Coast. But as it turns out, it was just as sinister and as bloodthirsty and as reckless as we all thought it was going to be, because the Big 12 was not just trying to keep up with the Joneses in the Big 10 and the SEC. They were full on ready to destroy the Pac-12. And as it turns out, the Pac-12 was ready to be destroyed. It was just one $2.5 million Jenga block. This reminds me of like when Rocky got screwed over because Paulie signed a power of attorney.
How could you do it, Paulie?
In Rocky 5, and ultimately collapsed the entire thing, because it's always the weak link, right? Whether it's Fredo in The Godfather, whether it's Paulie in Rocky, whether who was it in Game of Thrones? It wasn't Tyrion, but it's always the weak link that you can get to, that you can get to turn, and then boom, the whole thing collapses. $2.5 million. That's all it took. 100 years more as an athletic organization. Hey, Colorado, you want $2.5 million because I know you're in a little bit of debt because you hired Dion on credit. So now where does Oregon State and Washington State go from here? There's a Pac-2. Are they calling it the Pac-2 now? Have they embraced that, or are they still sticking with the fact that they own the Pac-12 conference?
I haven't seen any consistent messaging from that conference, so it's hard to say.
Yeah.
The website looks nice, though. Have you been on it?
I have.
Yeah, just
Can't say I have.
Next break, just look at the Pac-2 website. It's kind of interesting just to see.
Here's where it's going to be interesting to go from here. Oregon State and Washington State, I still believe have an outside chance. Keep an eye on what's going on with the ACC, because the SEC and the Big Ten, I don't believe are done. They want, again, going to Game of Thrones here, they want to own the Iron Throne. They want to rule what used to be the 7 kingdoms, and then it was the 5 kingdoms, and now
just Westeros.
They want it's the 4 kingdoms now. All right, that's the power. It used to be the power 6, right? Now it's down to 4. And guess what? If they can collapse the ACC, they can get it down to 3 and really 2.5. Because no offense to the Big 12, but if you don't like, what's the Big 12's biggest brand? If Clemson and Florida State hop over to the SEC, and maybe you take North Carolina with you, Miami, who knows? Then the Big Ten might be looking at like Virginia. Who else is of note in the ACC? That the like Syracuse,
Boston College, maybe?
Boston. It definitely would fit. Like you get Boston, you get while Syracuse is kind of up there in New York, a lot of Syracuse
Still New
grads.
York.
So then there's going to be a handful of teams like Virginia Tech who are going to be kind of hanging out. NC State, they're going to be hanging out, and the Big 12 is going to pick them up. If the ACC ultimately collapse, which there are lawyers currently working on it right now to get, and I mentioned Colorado, $2.5 million. That's all it takes. It's going to take way more than $2.5 million. It's going to take hundreds of millions of dollars. But Florida State wants to go to the SEC. They do. Clemson wants to go with them. Then it's going to be the same thing in the Pac-12 of like, well, we can't be left behind. So the Big 12 is going to start gathering up teams I think there's an outside chance that Oregon State and Washington State end up in that. Here's the thing that Oregon State and Washington State have to be so incredibly careful about. You can't, while you're in an agreement with the Mountain West, you can't be with the Mountain West. You know what I mean? It's the weird tightrope that Washington State, this is me walking a tightrope, by the way, that Washington State and Oregon State are in. Is that you're in an agreement with the Mountain West. They have to be very, very clear, right? We are not your boyfriend. Yeah, we're going to hang out for the fall, and we're going to act like we're part of the Mountain West, and we're going to look like we're part of the Mountain West. But to be very, very clear, we are not putting a label on this. Oregon State and Washington State have to, together, very much make sure that everybody knows they are still single and not tied down. Does that make sense? Like, hey, I know I've been hanging out with Mountain West a lot, but that's not my girlfriend. I'm open to hear anything. But meanwhile, like, you can't insult the Mountain West so much and say that so that the Mountain West says, oh, hey, our agreement? Yeah, that's done. We don't need you. Yeah, your TV deal is nice and getting on the CW. Sure, it's better than CBS Sports 2, but you just insulted us. So now, if you're Washington State and Oregon State, this is going to be a tough tightrope because you want to keep your head above water because I think the ACC is going to collapse. I think the power brokers, if we've seen it from the Big 12, the SEC and the Big 10 are in a battle for complete supremacy, and Florida State and Clemson and North Carolina and Miami are massive pieces. Just like on House of Dragon, right? When they got all those little pieces there up on the board. How'd they get all the pieces? Like is that just somebody's job to make those things?
Handcraft them, you know it, man.
Just one guy is like, oh, God, we're going to war. I've got this chessboard up here. I got to keep making the pieces. But that's what it is. That's what it is. If you're the Big Ten or you're the SEC, boy, it's nice that we got all these great pieces. This Oregon, Washington, USC, UCLA thing, this is really nice. We got this West Coast thing going. But, man, North Carolina would be nice, too. And here's what the Big Ten you got to keep an eye on. Because look at what – and, by the way, Notre Dame is also in there as well. But you look at what Notre Dame did, right? Notre Dame, a handful of years ago, did something very, very smart. They didn't join the ACC, but they made it a scheduling agreement with the ACC, and they play about half of their schedule against the ACC, and mostly in the South. Why? Because that's where all the recruits are. If the ACC collapses, there goes part of Notre Dame's scheduling hack, and then Notre Dame maybe comes up for grabs. Because the Big Ten's not going to allow a Notre Dame scheduling hack. So, interesting times. But as we look back and we learn, $2.5 million. That's all it took from the weak link. Not even a full Pac-10 member. A newbie in Colorado that came in. All right, coming up next, we have got more college football. As it turns out, Arch Manning, was he playing us all the entire time? Or was he bullied into joining College Football 25? But do want to let you know about Ticket Tuesday. Congratulations to our Ticket Tuesday winner yesterday. Well, if you didn't win Hillsboro Hops tickets yesterday on Rip City Drive, no worries. Another Ticket Tuesday is coming around next week, every Tuesday for the entire Hillsboro Hops season. Listen to Rip City Drive in the afternoon for your chance to win, or you get your Hops tickets now at hillsborohops.com. On campus next, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, countdown to kickoff continues as we eagerly await the next 52 days. 52 days away from college football 2024, kicking off on Labor Day weekend as the Oregon Ducks will be taking on Idaho. And again, San Jose State? Beavs?
Idaho State.
Idaho State, the Bengals. Coming up on August the 31st. There's also apparently a big deal. Are we a week away now from your video game?
Oh, by this point, I will have already played it for 24 hours. I get it Monday night at midnight.
Okay, so Monday night, college football at midnight?
Probably set my Xbox to auto download it so I can.
Okay, let me ask you this. All right, first off, let's 52 days to college football. We're going to be at Big Ten Media Day coming up 2 weeks from tomorrow, live from Indianapolis. So that's going to be happening. Right now, though, I have some more questions about this video game as we go on campus. Here we go. All right. Also, some housekeeping about the show. I'm going to be on tomorrow, and then I'm taking a little mini vacation. And I believe Chris Burkhart's going to be filling in. And is going to be hosting the show with you. Now, here's the thing. I know, Brenden, that while I am not a video game guy and I understand the excitement of college football 2025, I don't have a way to play it. I don't have is it a console? I don't have a console. I am not going to be back on the show until Wednesday. This thing drops Monday at mid. Is it okay? Is it Sunday night, making it Monday morning? So Monday night.
Yes.
So technically Tuesday.
Yes. Yep.
You and Chris are still going to have to do a show. And I know both of you are going to be playing this video game. Should I have to be worried about the show coming up next Tuesday? Because I know that
possibly
that the producer of the show and I guess, I'm going to be in paradise. I'll be on the beach drinking Mai Tais, so maybe I won't be worried about it at all.
Yeah, I don't think you'll care too much.
You can stay up and play it that night and then just worry about sleep the next day?
Yeah. Yeah.
But
when you've been waiting for something for 10 years,
gosh.
you make, my love of college football predates just about everything in my modern adult life, Justin. So, yeah, it's going to be kind of fun to enjoy this. Maybe it'll be Tuesday afternoon. But either way, we're not going to be very long.
Now I realize I understand the circumstances that went to where the game got taken away. Next question. This is going to, if it hasn't already set records, it's probably going to set records in terms of revenue for EA Sports, right? A company that already, gajillions of dollars are going to be coming in. And, of course, the players are getting a $600 check.
Think Arch Manning got more?
I don't believe he did.
He got $601.
So the players had to opt in, and for that you got a copy of the game and you got $600. Fair offer, better than a stick in the eye, right? And EA Sports knew exactly what I have been talking about forever. It's and I think what I believe Arch Manning learned, which was, this game's going to go on with or without you, and it's not going to matter. And so Arch Manning was the only one. He opted out, and he said, yeah, I'm only focused on football. It's all you got to do is sign a paper and collect a check, dude. It has nothing to do with distracting you from football. Then a big promotional video happened with Eli and Arch. So here's my question. Conspiracy theory, Brenden, was this the ploy the entire time? Or did the Manning Brain Trust, which starts with Archie and trickles down to Peyton and Eli and Omaha Productions and then now to Arch, did the Manning Brain Trust go I think we're really missing an opportunity?
Okay, so help me out. So Archie's the grandpa.
Yeah, Archie Manning is Peyton and Eli's dad.
And remind me again who Arch's dad is.
Cooper.
Yes, the Manning we don't know much about. Because of his injury. And
he got injured at Tennessee.
Yes.
He was a very good player, was a wide receiver at Tennessee, got injured.
Got you. Okay.
Just want to make sure Peyton and Eli both won Super Bowls.
Just want to make sure I got that right. But yes.
Do you think this was the plan the whole time?
No,
Hey, we're going to, or do you think it was like, boy, we're really missing out on an opportunity here. Didn't realize it was going to be this big. And here's what I really believe. I think Arch Manning thought, or the Manning Trust, that other players were also going to
100%.
withdraw their names, and that they, as a collective of big name, whether it's Quinn Ewers on his own Texas team, whether it's probably not Dylan Gabriel. Who's the biggest name in college football right now? Probably
maybe Quinn Ewers. Maybe
Alabama.
Jalen Milroe.
Jalen Milroe's probably the biggest name.
Dylan Gabriel's on the short list.
Dylan Gabriel's probably on the short list.
He is.
He's on the short list for the Heisman. Do you think they thought? I guess, Shedeur Sanders is the biggest name in college football. Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter.
Yeah.
I'll bet you, and I think I'll bet you that Arch was waiting for Shedeur and Travis Hunter to also hold out.
Well,
and then they got the cover, and all of a sudden, they're not.
Well,
they're taking their $600
for sure. That, and again, Justin, whether or not right or wrong, who else is on the cover? Oh, the guy who's starting over Arch Manning, Quinn Ewers. So I think this was kind of a little bit of okay, we're not going to do this because whatever reason. Then it was, literally no one else in the country opted out. Like, nobody. You were so that's where I think it just came around being like, why'd we do this kind of a thing. So I don't think it was preordained. I think they did it just to do it, and then they're like, ooh, okay, we're kind of on an island out here.
Now, here's my other question with about 40 seconds. They did a whole promotional video with Eli Manning, and, this is a commercial. Arch got way more than $600 for this, right? It's a promotional commercial. And he's tagging EA College Football in the tweet. Eli Manning and his 530,000 followers. Did he mess around and get a payday? I think he did. I don't know if this was the plan all along, but clearly the business savvy, I think, was there the entire time, because if Shedeur Sanders held out and then did a promotional video with his dad going like, it turns out I'm back in the game, he would have gotten paid so much. I think he played everybody and got paid off doing it. Anyways, we may talk more about this football game coming up. We've got Make or Miss. We've got stuff we saw on the internet. Hour number 2 next, 620 Rip City Radio. It is 7 a.m. on a Wednesday morning. Justin Myers with you. Chris Paul says playing time was a bigger priority than ring chasing by signing a one-year deal with the San Antonio Spurs. Continuing the NBA drama, Kawhi Leonard also says Paul George made his decision to leave L.A. well before the end of the season and that the move was not surprising. Arch Manning is set to be in the college football 25 after previously being the only collegiate player to opt out. He also shot a promo video with his famous uncle. Wonder if he got more than just that $600. And as college football draws near, the Big 12 Media Day was underway yesterday. Pac-2 Media Day with Oregon State and Washington State underway in Vegas tonight. TYSON ALGER, friend of the program from the I-5 corridor, joins us in hour number 3. But hour number 2 of Rip City Mornings, it starts right now on 620 Rip City Radio. Hey, welcome back to Rip City Mornings, everybody. Hopefully you are having a fantastic Wednesday. We got Make or Miss coming up. We've also got stuff we saw on the internet. Brenden, how are we holding up physically? People that don't know, I don't think I am speaking out of turn here or telling tales outside of school, but...
No, it's on my Twitter. Had some nice people comment yesterday.
Your AC went out yesterday. Now, I'm sure you will not be getting any sympathy from people without AC, but it's one of those things where, boy, it's the whole, hey, is it better to have loved and lost? Like, no, it's better to have never have loved at all. I would have rather not been dumped than, it's like, it's rather to not have AC ever, not know what you're missing, to then get a taste of the good stuff and then have it ripped from your overheated living room just right through your hands. So how we holding up physically? We doing all right?
It was a rough sleeping night last night, so I'll leave it at that. It's, there were many expletives screamed at the air yesterday. Things like, why now and why me? But, what else, right? What else? I mean, it's, thankfully we had a lot of fans and one window unit, but one window unit doesn't do good for a full multi-story house.
Yeah, it's going to be tough.
We got to wait till Thursday just to get the diagnostic, so it's going to be a hot week at our household, unfortunately.
You got to call Travis Demers. You got to get Trav on the line. He seems to know, like, the right guys to call.
We called both people that have advertised on this show.
Yeah.
Couldn't see us till next week or the week after.
Yeah.
We call whoever,
It's like trying to buy, like, a generator during a power outage.
Yeah, it's like whoever has it quickest. So we went with Wolcott's going to get in. They've advertised here. So, Wolcott for the win, Justin. Shout out Wolcott.
If they would like to advertise on the show,
they could come in and say they saved Brendan's house. So,
all right.
Nevertheless, though, it's crazy how today you're like, oh, you're going to get some relief at like 89, 90 degrees.
Yeah, it's going to be 90. It's going to feel like it's, just breezy outside.
Compared to yesterday. But of all the days, Justin, it has to go out on the hottest bleeping day of the year.
I know. Well, like I said, it's...
Why? Like, I put the hands up. Why?
Like, I think about this right now because I remember when the ice storm hit and you lose power, and it's like, boy, I would really love to have a generator right now. Well, maybe buy one, like, and again, you can't do anything about the air conditioning, right? Because it's not like you can have, like, much of a backup.
No, it's true.
But, yeah, it's
those
like,
things, they just were.
It's like all the people that wanted a generator when there's like, you are now in the line of people like, yeah, AC just.
Yeah, and
I feel, and I'm not trying to make fun because the last thing I need is karma to flip on me.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that I think happens, right? My folks were like, we didn't put in that air conditioner. We don't know if it was put in when the house came in, if they, if it was there when the house came in, it's 20 years old, right? So that's a shelf life for an AC unit. So,
all right, I'm going to play a game here real quick.
Let's do it.
What's your do you still do the thing on the phone where you can buy and sell stocks? Is it the Robinhood?
I do.
You still do the Robinhood?
I do.
And now correct me if I'm wrong because
stocks and retirement.
you can buy and sell on the Robinhood app, right?
Yes.
Okay.
It's like, Charles Schwab or Fidelity or any other of
all
the
that stuff I have no idea about.
Companies where you can just
probably should know more about
just
it.
like you need like a like a smart TV, Justin, to get to the apps. It's like these are apps that get you to the stocks.
Gotcha.
So same kind of theory.
You are familiar, though, with the idea of buying stocks and that stock being at one price, and then when that price goes up, the profit when you sell. You understand that. I think everybody else understands that. I'm the only guy here who's maybe explaining it to myself. I want to play a little NFL Robin Hood
Let's do it.
NFL Robin, you have to buy a team for the season, and you have to sell a team for the season, and the value is simple. Wins in the regular season. I've got some candidates. You could throw your own out there, but if you were playing the Robin Hood game of I am going to buy in July some stock in this particular team, and its value is based solely upon what it did last year. Solely, which team's going to have the biggest upside? Who's going to be the Houston Texans, right? Because if you bought in on the Houston Texans last year,
so this is
you
still
made a boatload of profit.
So
they
this
won
is
10
still-
games last year.
This is still like a buy low. This is not like go with the Chiefs and just keep chasing returns, right? Because like
No. This is like if maybe I've got it wrong, but like, I mean, I guess you could if you believe that the Chiefs are going to win more than 11 games, which they could.
I get what you mean.
So that's what I'm saying.
So it's a buy low, and then you're kind of and then you're selling on a team that I think is just not going to be very good this year.
Yeah, we're going to sell. Price is way too high. We're selling right now before the ultimate collapse comes. All right, and this is solely based off of last year. All right, here's some candidates that I'm going to throw out there. New York Jets were 7-10 last year. Aaron Rodgers, though, back this year. Cincinnati Bengals were 9-8 last year, last place in the AFC North, but obviously Joe Burrow is going to be back this year. Indianapolis Colts 9-8, made the playoffs last year. Jacksonville Jaguars 9-8. Trevor Lawrence had not his best year. Chargers Jim Harbaugh 5-12 last year. Chicago Bears 7-10 have Caleb Williams now on the team and a lot of offensive weapons. The Atlanta Falcons were 7-10 last year, but now they have both Kirk Cousins, who coming off of an Achilles injury, but capable of winning a lot of games in the NFL, and you got Michael Penix waiting in the wings. Those are kind of the teams and I'll throw the Cardinals in there just for fun. 4-13 last year. Of those teams, what is the savvy one season? Because we're short selling here. I think that's what it's called, right? Or day trading. We're day trading here. We're season trading here. You don't get to pick. This is not a keeper league. This is of all the teams, and you could throw one in there you want. Which team is the smartest Robin Hood investment in the NFL heading into next year?
Yeah, there's some great.
I know who I think it is.
Great choices in there.
To me, it comes down to two teams, but I'm curious who's on yours.
You also didn't throw in your Steelers, so just kind of hanging around. I can see them if it breaks.
Here's the thing. Well, the Steelers were 10-7 last year.
You just said
they were 10-7 last year, but
yeah.
I don't know if that's a great What's their ceiling with Russ?
Got you. Okay.
11, 12 wins. I would hope so. I would love it, but that's a good division, and I don't know if I fully believe in Russ yet.
I'm going to go with the Bengals because they have the most talent that's proven. Like, you could go with the Chargers, and that would be a solid bet, too, because you look, folks.
They're going to win more than 5 games.
Yeah, Jim Harbaugh hasn't had – I mean, I think his worst year with the 49ers was still 8-8. I don't – or 7 – like, it was real – like, he goes in the 49ers' first year. He turns him into a winner. They'll probably win, like, 9 games. Now, that's a pretty big return. But, Justin, Cincinnati – they are the only team that has proven they can beat the Kansas City Chiefs, the AFC.
And so you're saying also, let's say, in this investment isn't just wins from over last year, but throw in playoff success, ability to make the Super Bowl.
With 9 wins a year ago? Yeah. I mean, I don't think the Jets are interesting because I do think Aaron Rodgers.
To me, the Jets is the one here.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Jets is at 7-10 last year, and Aaron Rodgers coming back and again, I've seen it before, though, in the NFL or just in sports in general, where Aaron Rodgers might be cooked. right? He might be cooked. I don't think he is, but he might be cooked. And we just see him as the guy who won an MVP 3 years ago. But we still haven't seen him play for the New York Jets, a franchise that does not have a long history of success. We have not seen him play with that offensive line. We have not seen him do anything since ripping his Achilles 4 plays into the season. So there's a lot of variables there. But in the spirit of the Robin Hood portion of this, I think the Jets make the biggest leap.
If you're going with odds, they probably have the highest odds. But
where
again,
are we on the Chargers? So the Chargers 5-12, they're going to win more than 5 games. They're going to. They're in a tough division, but I think they're going to be better than the Broncos for now because I love Bo Nix, but I don't think Bo Nix can take the Broncos to the playoffs. Maybe he can. I love him. Where are we at on the Chargers? I think that so those were the two that I said. I thought it was the Jets and the Chargers in our little game experiment here were the two teams that had the most chance of buying at a low price and getting in next year, sitting there in the playoffs. Anybody from the NFC?
Not that's going to make that big of a leap. We mentioned the Bears. I like them as a sneaky team this year.
But are the Bears with Caleb Williams going to win more than 7 games?
I think they could.
It's weird. You think the Bears, last year they had the number 1 picks. No, that was the Panthers' number 1 pick. They had 7 wins last year with Justin Fields, who, by the way, might be the quarterback of the Steelers by October. We don't know.
As crazy as it sounds, Justin, if you were going to ask me the opposite side, I think it's possible the Carolina Panthers could be worse. So
worse than 2 wins.
They could be at that level again. I wouldn't be so you just look at how the NFL shakes out, right? You're like, who else could be worse than the Panthers theoretically? Maybe the Patriots.
The Patriots, they only won 4 games last year, but new coach.
Maybe the Commanders, but that's it. It's a short list, man.
All right, we're going to I know we got make or miss coming up, but I also maybe want to flip this and go who are you selling? Who are you selling coming into the season? But before we get to that, I do want to let you know about Grand Slam Cash. That's a Grand Slam you just heard. Be listening to Keywords each and every weekday from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. on the 15th. That's coming up soon. For your chance to win $1,000 13 times a day. That's a baker's dozen. Grand Slam Cash from Rip City Radio. It's sponsored by the Hillsboro Hops. Get all the details at ripcityradio.com. Make or miss, and our Robin Hood game continues next. 620 Rip City Radio. All right, coming up 1 hour from now, we're going to talk to TYSON ALGER from the I-5 corridor in his normal Wednesday spot. Also, the Portland Trailblazers want to invite you to Pup City. It's presented by Tavo, a 1.4-kilometer walk around the Moda Center for Rip City fans and their four-legged friends. That's right. You and the dogs can walk around the Moda Center. Check out both dog and human-friendly vendors like Stumptown Coffee, Portland Pet Food, and Blue Star Donuts. So much more. Each ticket purchase received entry, Pup City swag, stuff we all get, a ticket to an early season Trailblazer game, and a donation to their nonprofit partner, one tail at a time. You get the complete details at ripcityradio.com. All right, I want to continue this game, but we're going to continue it because we do, if anything, fake traditions on this show. Let's open up Make or Miss. Let's have the music going, but I'm going to reverse Make or Miss it, and we're going to play the Robin Hood Shark Tank buy low, sell high game in the NFL. Here we go. It's time for Make or Miss. I also wonder about, and I like to think that people in their routines listen to this program and they go to work maybe at the same time or pick up their kids at the same time or drop off their kids at the same time. And they're like, wait, why is Make or Miss not on? And I don't want people to get confused. So last segment we played this game, right? It is buy low, sell high. And we did the buying low part. Now we got to do the selling high part because, again, great example of this would be the Los Angeles Chargers. The Los Angeles Chargers in 2022 were in the playoffs, looked poised to be a fixture in the postseason they fell off. And if you kept your money invested in the Los Angeles Chargers last year, well, you would have lost your shirt. So, who's going to be the team that is going to have the biggest fall off? If you had money invested, who are you selling? Who are you selling right now? You don't call me crazy? I think the Miami Dolphins are going to fall off. Miami Dolphins were 11-6 last year. Didn't end the season all that well. I think the Dolphins might be the sell high team this year, Brenden. And I like Tua. I like Mike McDonald.
McDaniel.
Him too?
Yeah.
Josh McDaniel. Mike McDonald's the coach of the Seahawks. I knew that.
Mike McDaniel's the guy who may or may not, been ripping a vape on the sidelines like a year and a half ago. Kind of endeared himself amongst all the young people.
It's Josh McDaniel, but he doesn't coach anymore.
I don't know where he is these days.
Mike McDaniel. There is Mike McCarthy.
Yep.
He's the Cowboys, another factor here. And then, of course, there's Mike McDonald, who is not from the Doobie Brothers. Not that Mike McDonald, but...
Isn't that Michael McDonald, technically?
What a fool.
Right. Hey, Michael McDonald's solid, man.
Anyways.
I could see it.
I'm going Dolphins.
I'm
going
think
Dolphins. Sell. Was it Kramer? Was the guy, the crazy guy? Not Kramer from Seinfeld. I know that's the crazy guy, but the Jim Kramer. Jim Kramer. Sell. Mad
Money, man. I watch it all the time.
And then it turns out he was a crook, too. He was like, Bear Stearns. Or it was like, you had a lot of inside information on that Bear Stearns deal, dude.
It's almost like the stock market's kind of rigged.
Right around 2008. You seem to know an awful lot about Bear Stearns.
I'm going to go with the Buffalo Bills.
Oh, there we go. Falling off, huh?
So... You trade away your number one receiver.
Yeah, Stephon Diggs is gone.
And you don't replace him. You don't draft anybody to replace him. You just assume that it's going to figure itself out. And don't get me wrong, their dude from Utah who they love, the tight end, what's his name? Kincaid. They absolutely love that
Dalton
kid.
Kincaid?
Dalton Kincaid.
Yeah, okay.
And he'll probably get a ton of catches this season. I just think Buffalo's due to take a step back, especially with the Jets going up in that division. I think just because it's still Tua, Tyreek, that backfield, Jalen Waddle's still a dude. I think it'll be Miami and New York competing for that division. I think Buffalo. Not to mention they
selling high on the Buffalo Bills.
They moved off my boy Jordan Poyer. They moved off a lot of their defense. It's. I think Buffalo is primed for like an 8-win campaign this year, 7 wins maybe. fall back to like Jets level.
The easy answer is the Cowboys because they're the Cowboys and they.
What about Cleveland? Could they fall backwards? Deshaun Watson just does not meet it again?
Cleveland is interesting.
Right?
Cleveland is an interesting decision there because you're right. 11-6. They still have, even though I don't like him,
Your guy.
arguably the best defensive player in the game. And that like their defense was so good that Joe Flacco got them to the playoffs, got them to the postseason.
A retired Joe Flacco off the couch. Like,
yeah. Well, he wasn't retired. They just no other team really wanted him.
Yeah. Sorry. On the couch, accurate term though. But yes.
But Cleveland's interesting. I think that would be a good. I don't know if they're going to be better than 11 wins. I don't know if they fall off massively, but they're not going to make you any profit.
What about Detroit? They didn't have a one-year wonder under Dan Campbell, did they?
But they've showed that they progressively got better every year.
Right.
That's where I am a big believer in Dan Campbell is that it wasn't just a one-year wonder. It started off bad, and he built that roster and implemented his whole grit. Men, all right, men, and puts a big dip in and, does up downs and all that. And I'm like, this guy is a joke. There's no way he can win. Turns out I was wrong.
He must fit Detroit very well.
It was just that's what he had to do, right? I think every coach, Belichick was a master at that. It's like, give me guys that work with what I do. And that's how Belichick built up his roster. Dan Campbell needed a bunch of dudes that completely bought into his nobody believes in you, chip on your shoulder, let's go out and rip their faces off. And it worked. And I think because they got better every year, I don't know if they win the division. I don't know if they have a massive fall off. But Detroit's interesting.
Who's
Rams is the one that
I'm curious just in general.
Because again, speaking of McVay, is he 1 foot out the door?
Stafford's going to be healthy, right? You still got Cooper Kupp. You still got Stafford. You still got pretty solid running back in Kyron Williams.
And I guess the thing with the Rams,
and I love McVay. He's a genius offensively, right? So he's gonna score points. That being said, that division belongs to Kyle Shanahan. Sorry, Mike.
And
McDonald.
I guess if the Seahawks and the Cardinals don't provide any pushback, right? That's 4 games right there for the Rams for the taking.
Like, do we expect the Hawks with Geno Smith and or Sam Howell to be any better than 9 wins?
I think it's going to be a bad year for the Hawks.
I think it could
now,
be, too.
I might be a Pete Carroll homer.
Who knows?
I might be a Pete Carroll homer, and because I love
Pete.
Pete Carroll, and I like the whole vibe and everything else.
We took down the pictures, Justin.
I was not a big Geno Smith guy. And I think the fact that they didn't address quarterback, they tried to but didn't. Who's the guy they got? Howell?
Yeah, Sam Howell from the Commanders.
I wouldn't be surprised if Sam Howell ends up being their quarterback. And then they go quarterback hunting.
Could be.
In the draft coming after like a Quinn Ewers or any of those guys. You know what I mean? I think they go quarterback hunting next year.
If you had to say right now, worst team in the NFL, go. Just in general, worst team. Like, I still think, I just don't see. I mean, they're in a bad division.
It's Carolina Panthers.
The only reason
Carolina Panthers are the worst team I believe will be the worst team in the NFL.
That division is so weak, though. They are in the weakest division in football. So it's like, even if they turned it around, I don't know. Is there any team who could literally, could the Giants be bad?
Giants could be really bad.
With Daniel Jones again and Danny Dimes. Could the Giants be?
The Giants weren't on the list of because you would never,
They went 6 wins.
6 wins, they could be bad.
You could see them going 2 or 3 wins. Getting the quarterback this next year,
and
Danny Dimes.
If he's listening and not on the golf course.
We love you, TD.
The Broncos might be bad.
I think so. You don't believe in Bo?
Not bad, but they could just be look, this is the lumps of a rookie quarterback.
Are
if
they
they're going all in.
Better than the Raiders or Chargers right now. If you were to say knowing everything
I think the Broncos are going to finish dead last in that division.
Really, even with everything the Chargers had to cut. Like how they cut basically all their star power besides Herbie.
I believe in Harbaugh.
Yeah?
He's never been my favorite guy, but I believe he's given no evidence ever that he was going to have any fall off.
You
and it
believe-
just
yeah.
his kind of like Dan Campbell. His brand of crazy just works. It just works.
So you would take him over, and we have a
I
sample
would
size.
take of that division. I would put the Chargers and the Raiders because again, until Antonio Pierce is another guy who like
Fun story.
he kept that team like they were a mess when they fired McVay, right?
Was their last? I think their last game of the season, Justin. I'm 90% sure they beat the Super Bowl champion Chiefs. Let's see.
Their last game of the season, they beat the Broncos.
Okay, so the second.
They beat the Chiefs on Christmas Day.
Yeah, and that team ho hum went on to win the
They
Super
won
Bowl.
three. They won 3 of their last 4, including a win against Kansas City.
At Arrowhead, nonetheless.
At Arrowhead, like they
Just
like,
saying. So
but
impressive.
it looked like they were a complete and utter mess. And I'm like, okay, interim coach Antonio Pierce doing the players coach thing's not going to work. Nope, it worked. I don't think the Raiders are going to be all that bad.
It's fascinating because, like you
Who's their
said, Justin,
who's their quarterback?
isn't it Minshew? Yeah, they got Minshew.
Yeah, they got Minshew Mania.
Yeah, right? I think that's it.
That's-
Minshew and then their other dude, Aiden O'Connell. So we'll see what comes out of that. But very much like we didn't say this on the air.
Minshew got the Colts to the playoffs.
He did. But what Justin and I talked about in our pre-show meeting, I believe yesterday, was like, that's the beauty of the NFL. We sit here and like we can tell you right now, folks, we can look ahead at the NBA and go, yeah, the Blazers are probably not going to be very good.
Mm-hmm.
And you could take that to the bank.
Mm-hmm.
We can sit here and say, Carolina Panthers aren't going to be good. You don't know the NFL because teams can't really be bad for multiple years. I mean, they can. You know what I'm getting at, Justin. Like, it's so much harder to project who's going to be terrible year to year in the NFL.
There's no 4 year. Okay, there are teams that you could say, all right, did they kind of tank, right? But nobody goes on a 4-year rebuilding tanking process like the Blazers are currently underway with, right? It's not that. Everybody gets fired after 1 year and you don't bounce back. So you don't see teams like rebuild the way, because you don't have to in the NFL because it's non-guaranteed contracts and everything else. Boy, who else is candidate to be? Giants might be that sneaky good pick of the worst team in the NFL. No Saquon, right? He's with. Is Philly a team? Is Philly a team with the?
Well, that was the key thing with Philadelphia.
I don't want to put too much into this, but the gut in me says, what's Philadelphia's biggest asset? What do they do better than anybody else? QB sneak.
Right.
Who is
the brotherly shove.
Who is the key component to the QB sneak?
Jason Kelsey.
And he's gone. He's doing a podcast now.
It is.
He's at Taylor Swift concerts, living his best life with wristbands and friendship bracelets and everything else. He's off to being a media star.
So
I don't like.
Go back
as silly and as dumb and as elementary as it sounds, like if Philly doesn't have the one thing, that was their special sauce.
It was.
And I like Jalen Hurts, but what else does Jalen Hurts do outstanding? So
I'll say this too. Like,
Philly might be in some trouble.
Very much.
But they got Saquon.
Yeah, very much in the same way, Justin. And Oregon might have a player like this too. But like, for example, like last year, you could really, and like for Oregon State, you could tell they really missed having Jack Coletto. And that was like Oregon State's bread and butter for 2-3 years. It was like,
yes,
we need 3
the jackhammer.
Yeah, need 3-4 yards, cloud of dust style, man. He's going to get it. Now, going to Philly, when Nick Sirianni got hired, it's kind of an odd duck. He gave his press conference and everyone's like, I don't know about this guy.
And he's talking about flowers. And
and then he goes and does what they do and they get, to their peak. But then, Justin, I remember before last season, everyone said, Nick Sirianni lost his offensive coordinator. He lost his defensive coordinator. Let's see what happens. Well, somewhere along the line, he thought making Matt Patricia his defensive coordinator was a good move, right? So he kind of failed. He ended up firing both coordinators this year. Fired the one-year offensive coordinator, fired the defense. So my question is, can Nick Sirianni win without his assistants? And Justin, you've seen it in college as well as pros. Some coaches are only successful when it's like, that guy's my defensive coordinator.
Sure.
That guy's my offensive coordinator. Maybe less so in the NFL, but if Nick Sirianni has another bad year, you
But it
kind
was
of got.
last year a bad year. They won 11 games and made the playoffs. It just they didn't make the Super Bowl.
Do you think? Well, I guess.
And they got blown out by the Bucks.
Philly's expectations. Yeah,
It's
that
not
was
a bad year.
Yeah, I just think the way it ended was probably, like you said, they were blown out by Baker Mayfield.
Yes, that's
Like,
what we see in the NBA all the time, right? It's like, the Lakers had a good year. Yeah, but they got swept.
Yep.
And it's like,
Yeah,
you
totally.
embarrass us in the postseason. Sometimes it's almost better to just not make the postseason now. Probably
So that'll be interesting.
wouldn't have been
yeah.
good. But I think Philly comes back
They
down
could
to
be.
earth.
They could be. But yeah, that's.
But yeah.
Should we
that
get into a
division-
make or miss?
Yeah, we got time for one.
Let's get into one. We haven't mentioned this today, so I want to make sure to get into it.
I'm so excited for football season.
I know, me too. Right? All right.
Man, I'm so pumped.
That's why I said, Justin. See, you might be seeing. You're gonna be hearing me talk
I
about.
try to get excited about summer league and all this stuff, and clinging and all, but
Hey, those of us who
man,
play,
I'm ready for football
those
season.
of us who play the video
God.
game, man, we're gonna get a little taste. We're gonna get a little taste. All right. Speaking of which, Justin, the video game. Some alarm bells may have been going off in Corvallis yesterday. Oregon State took an L, not releasing new uniforms on their own terms.
All right, so you explained it to me, and I'm going to attempt to explain it. This is like the game of telephone. So the Beavs have got an update, not a full, like Oregon's doing full revamp of uniforms.
Refresh is
A
what I
little
like to call it.
refresh. It happens usually every 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, Nike just said, hey, we'll give you some sleeker new uniforms. Sounds great.
And so they hadn't put anything out in terms of when the release was going to be. Never mind that Oregon teased their new uniforms for like a month and a half. But
Right.
neither here nor there. Keep telling yourself that. Anyways, was mean spirited. But yeah, we'll get to it when we get to it. And I don't know if they were maybe waiting for Vegas or
Maybe.
what. But as it turns out, Boise State also got a little refresh on their uniforms, and they unveiled their uniforms
Via the video game.
via College Football 25. And
Which is so cool. It already has all the new uniforms in it. So shout
yeah,
out from
and
them
well,
on that.
it's again why it's like if you have a new uniform to be introduced, you better do it before the game,
Right. Because
EA Sports has got all the new ones. Nike made sure of that, and I bet they got a nice little handshake.
Oh, yeah.
So Boise State goes like, hey, here's our new uniforms, and you'll be able to play in these new uniforms on Monday because you'll be like Brenden playing the game from midnight till 4 a.m, so you got to come into work. And in the game, they were
Yeah, it was
playing
like
against Oregon State, and Beaver fans were like, are those our new uniforms?
Yeah, it was like a minute.
Boise State stole the thunder. They stole the uniform thunder.
Yeah, it was like a minute and a half of gameplay, some other teams on Boise's schedule. But yeah, all of a sudden around noon yesterday, some images started to leak, and it was like, oh, look at Oregon State's new uniforms. And you look at it like, yeah, objectively there are changes from last year. But again, there was a pretty common theme amongst Beaver fans at beaversedge.com and others who were like, what a missed opportunity. What just enough, if I had $1, Justin, for every person yesterday who said, just typical with what we've seen from Oregon State's marketing arm, I'd be feeling pretty good this morning. So, I mean, it's, to your point, you're like, it's mean-spirited, but I think most Beaver fans agree with you. It's kind of an L.
At some point, you're going to have to realize, right, that the whole marketing thing is not the whole, hey, we're not Oregon. Oh, hey, there they are. There's those new uniforms. I'm looking at it right now. They're playing in the snow, by the way.
That last game of this, like, it's funny you say that. I had a debate with my
Well,
brothers.
so what? It looks like they just changed the stripes a little bit to on the shoulders. It's going to look kind of sharp.
And there's an orange stripe down the pants. But yeah, Oregon State plays the last game of the season, Justin. Thanksgiving weekend in Boise.
Well,
Pretty good
and
accuracy.
it might be in snow.
That's what I
according
said.
to the
Very
video
well
game.
could be snow.
But yeah, and we talked about this so much, but Oregon State's whole, hey, we're the opposite of Oregon, it just it's not working out for you. I know you don't want to be. I get it. I know we are annoying. I know we are irritating. We are infuriating, Oregon fans are. But the whole we're not you is, I don't know if that's the,
Just
I don't
seems
know
like
if
a
that's the right play. It's another, like you said, another missed opportunity. It's minuscule, but it is combined with multiple missed opportunities. That's how you get where you're at. All right. Coming up next, stuff we saw on the internet to wrap up hour number 2 next, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, before we wrap up hour number 2, we want to let you know, Rip City Radio, we are keeping the Ticket Tuesday winning streak alive. Exclusive tickets to the Hillsboro Hops all season long. Listen to Rip City Drive each and every Tuesday. Congratulations to our winners yesterday, and make sure you continue to listen next week. And you know what? Listen the rest of this week as well. But your chance to win comes again next Tuesday, or you can just get Hops tickets now at hillsborohops.com. All right, this is a segment we loosely call stuff we saw on the internet. This is a very funny headline, and then an even funnier story. Arkansas man sues Las Vegas dancer for over $38 million, says he was misled to believe that they were exclusive.
Excuse me, come again?
Yep, real headline, real thing. So, this is the story of Fred Bruner. Fred Bruner, in 2014, was going through a divorce. Tough times happens, and decided, you know what? Boys trip. Let's go to Vegas. I need to get out of Arkansas. I need to get away from my soon-to-be ex-wife. I need to get away from. I need some time to decompress. So old Fred Bruner, he goes to Vegas. Decides, you know what? I'd like to have a cigar and a few cocktails, and I'd like to look at some naked ladies. So he goes to a unnamed Las Vegas gentleman's club, and according to court documents, meet and befriends a now unnamed exotic dancer. Over the next 10 years, he believed he was in an exclusive relationship with said exotic dancer, so much so that he was giving her monthly stipends, a house, exotic vacations, and this exotic dancer collected around $3 million in cash. Now, first off, this Bruner guy must be doing fairly well. If you have over 10 years, $3 million, I can do plus houses and everything else, right? So he's spending about $500,000 a year just on his, and I'm doing air quotes, YouTube, just on his girlfriend. Well, then he found out, she was not only not in a relationship with him, but was just bilking him for money and trips and a house, which, again, kind of saw that one coming. Ready for something else? Brenden, sit down. You're already sitting down. She already had a boyfriend. And apparently her boyfriend was also living in the house that this guy was paying for and was going on trips with her, just wasn't being posted on Instagram. So this guy is now suing for $38 million.
Go on a limb and say she doesn't have that much money.
I'm going to go on a limb and say that she's not going to have to pay one nickel because anybody that knows anything about gentlemen's clubs, which never been my thing, but you know what? If it's yours, you do you. But
You've been to one, though.
A couple of times.
Yeah, I'm like, okay.
I understand it. It was, but like,
Sure, totally.
At some point, it wore off on me.
Yeah, no,
I was like,
absolutely.
All right, I see what's going on.
Yeah, no, for sure. But you're aware of what it is.
Here's what's funny is whether it is the gentleman's club, whether it is Hooters, whether it is the golf course drink cart girl, everybody has a friend. Everybody has a friend that even though you know going in, hey, this person works for tips. In case this very attractive female works for tips. Everybody has a friend like David Bruner who believes, I think she likes me, dude. Every single group of friends has that one guy. And if you are in a group of friends who does not have that guy, you might be him. But whether it's the cute waitress at Buffalo Wild Wings, whether it is, I see it so much on the golf course now because, again,
Do you?
Gentlemen's clubs, not quite my thing.
Sure.
I see why it's other people's thing, not my thing. The golf course, it's the cute beverage cart girl. And, boy.
So you see it, huh?
Yeah.
Not
to the tune of a 10-year fake relationship, But you see it with your friends who are like, dude, did you just give 100% tip on that?
So you're saying you've got maybe some friends who aren't married like yourself.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yes, none of my married, but like,
yeah.
again, I also used to golf when I was
Sure.
not a married man
Yeah,
as well.
totally.
But there is like
I believe it. I do.
every group, like you go out with a foursome, and it's like, dude, I think the Bev Cart girl, I think I'm gonna get her number. It's like, she works for tips. It's like, dude, she keeps coming. Like, yeah, because you keep buying shots every time she rolls by, and you keep tipping 100%. You are the honey hole. You are.
Okay, so you're saying though, like, yes, you're 100% right though, Justin. You're saying though, just over the course of your life, before you were married,
Mhm.
that never happened to you?
What?
Just like,
Me get caught up by an attractive woman who works for tips, and me thinking that there is more to this than just a business transaction? No. I got 20/20 vision, my friends. These steely blue eyes. And again, I have nothing wrong with it. But I've never once thought, hey, cute bartender, I think she likes me. No, she's working for tips. And you know what? Good for her. Work for tips. Do whatever you got to do to get ahead in this crazy world. But no, I have never been. Now, maybe I've missed out, but luckily found my life partner.
But
could not be happier.
I have one story.
But I've always been in the, if you work for tips, you are financially beneficial to be nice and flirty, and good for you. And it feels good, but I've never once made myself believe, I think I'm going to get her number.
Yeah.
That's going to be a fake number if it's anything, pal.
Yeah, in my young and dumb days, Justin, I will admit to there was once or twice that maybe left my number on the back of a receipt. And I'll be honest. And one time I actually did hear back from said person. Didn't go anywhere. But still, I was happy to get a text back. But no, like
I
now
guess
doing
thinking
that,
like bartender, barista, like
but no, doing that
but
now
like
as an adult seems a little
beverage. Okay, first off, exotic dancer, like that's
you kind of got it.
You got to know
but
that.
I could also see
10-year relationship
where
like,
the lines get blurred, Justin. Like
Then, but like next step down is like, yeah, beverage cart girl at the golf course. Like her entire financial plan is based upon getting you tubby middle-aged guys to think, well, I think she likes me. She's laughing at all my jokes. Well, that should tell you right now because you're not funny. All right, coming up, hour number 3, next, 620 Rip City Radio. It is 8 a.m. on a Wednesday morning. Justin Myers with you. Update on the 2024 Team USA men's basketball team. Kawhi Leonard and Team USA have released a statement saying that him and the Clippers determined it is in Kawhi Leonard's best interest to spend the remainder of the summer preparing for the upcoming season rather than preparing for the Olympic Games in Paris. So Kawhi Leonard out of Team USA basketball. Who shall replace him? That may be coming up in hour number 3. Chris Paul says he is looking for more playing time as opposed to ring chasing and is a bigger priority and signing a one-year deal with the Spurs. Kawhi Leonard before saying he's not going to play in Paris also said Paul George made his decision to leave LA well before the season ended and the move was not surprising. He's back in the game. Arch Manning is set to be in college football 2025 after previously being the only college player to opt out. Hour 3 starts right now, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, Tyson Alger joins the show in 20 minutes. We do have an RCM mailbag coming up to wrap up the big show. As I just mentioned, it was reported 3 minutes ago. 3 minutes ago, Kawhi Leonard no longer on Team USA. I believe I saw Derek White.
Let's not let him manage his load enough.
Okay, I don't want to be mean-spirited about this, but like of all the players on Team USA's roster,
would be Kawhi.
the one guy to be like, yeah, I'm not feeling it, dog. It
So
would
typical.
be Kawhi Leonard.
So typical.
All right,
Now,
there's been a
Paul
lot.
George is like, I'm done with this.
But there's been a lot of talk going on the internet about, obviously, Anthony Edwards kind of ignited that talk yesterday or the day before when he said, no, I'm the number one option. And I'm like, this is a team with Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, and LeBron James. Jason Tatum also on there. And Anthony Edwards is like, yeah, I know that, but I am the number one option. It's me. And he wasn't saying it in a funny way. He wasn't saying it in a joking around way. He was saying it in yeah, I'm the number one option. And so it got me thinking about, Brenden, when you see these Olympic teams that are put together, right? It used to be with the Dream Team, it's just you put an all-star team together. You get 12 guys. You come up with a handful of different rotations, a handful of different combinations. And they did that back in 1992 because nobody could put up a fight, right? Nobody could put up a fight against Team USA. Same thing happened in 96. Same thing happened in 2000. And then all of a sudden, oh, boy, 2004, the rest of the world caught up. The rest of the world caught up, and Team USA threw an all-star team out there, didn't really have a plan, and got smoked. I believe they won the bronze, but they got smoked. So then that's how the Redeem Team happened. And credit to Mike Krzyzewski. And is it the Colangelo? Is that the guy who he used to run?
Jerry Colangelo.
Yeah, Jerry Colangelo.
Not the 76ers guy.
No.
That's Brian Colangelo.
Brian Colangelo.
And he was the burner guy.
Jerry Colangelo, which was it the Phoenix Suns?
Yeah, I don't even think they're related either, which is just the craziest
Jerry
irony that two
Colangelo's
basketball
just
guys.
hanging up.
Yeah.
Well, it's like there's two Bogdanoviches, and they're not related.
Or two Bridges, Miles and McCall, and very different player, very different character.
Very different family, too.
Yeah.
Very. Not at all related. Anyways, but you saw in 2008 and the Redeem Team, if you watch that documentary, which we talked about yesterday, there was a plan in place. Players had roles on the team. And guess what? Not everybody got – it wasn't an all-star game. It wasn't just a, hey, you're going to – there was before 2004 and even in 2004, there was kind of like a middle school approach. It's like you five are going to start, but you five are going to play the second quarter. Do you know what I mean? And that's like – they realized, no, we're going up against teams now that have been playing together. And I know that France has got NBA players and Spain's got NBA players. But for the most part, these national teams, that's why Spain was so dangerous. Because, the Gasol brothers, played, in 4 different Olympics, right? Meanwhile, Team USA was constantly retooling, tinkering, and revamping. So now that we sit here, this is one of the most talented. I mean, you think about just star power outside of 1992. You've got Tatum as the highest paid player in the league. You got LeBron James, who is the most popular player in the league and maybe one of those popular athletes around. You have got Kevin Durant, Anthony Davis, Steph Curry. Those guys, all Hall of Famers. Who's your starting lineup? Who's your starting lineup? Who's your rotation? And I know they're going to use all 12 guys and whoever else gets that spot from Kawhi Leonard. Conspiracy theory. Did Kawhi Leonard take a look at the writing on the wall and maybe realize, kind of like Damian Lillard realized a couple of years ago, like, I'm not going to play very much. Do I want to screw up my entire summer? Do I want to go to Paris and do the whole Olympic thing? And because I look at, and Kawhi Leonard is an unbelievable player. But Brenden and I look at this roster and I go, he might not have been playing all that much. Do you think that's part of it? I wouldn't put it past him.
Yeah, I do think it's part of it. I think there's many levels to this. I think also,
do I want to screw up my entire summer?
I think it's
and play like 7 minutes a game.
Now, there's also the other piece to this too, which is kind of coincidence with this came either right after or during, like the same time when he was talking about Paul George leaving.
Yes.
So I wonder if, and again, maybe if I'm Kawhi Leonard and I had heard the entire basketball world pretty much make fun of me, pretty much blame Paul George for leaving because I'm not healthy, all these other things. Justin, is it a stretch to say that Steve Ballmer went to Kawhi Leonard and James Harden and said, you guys are it now. We need you to be healthy and ready for and maybe Kawhi's like, yeah, the Clippers paying me a lot of money. I'm not making any money for Team USA. I'm out. I need to focus on the season.
But why'd you sign up in the first place? I mean, he was always going to be the focal point of the Clippers anyways, whether Paul George was there or not. He said he knew that Paul George was leaving. Like, why did you sign up in the first place?
Well, I don't know if you sign up as much as you're drafted, right? You're
no,
kind
I
of
think
like
you have to. Like, you could take your name out. You could have been like, yeah, thanks, but no thanks for the invite. I'm not. I have to focus on the Clippers thing. I don't know.
Yeah, the whole playing
it probably helped. Like everything else, there's multitude of answers. But I just wonder if Kawhi Leonard went to these practices because he was there for a week and a half practicing and maybe looked around and was like, Steve Kerr doesn't have me playing an awful lot.
Can I give you
I played 7 minutes a night.
Can I give you my
in Paris?
My fun, not truthful, kind of tongue-in-cheek answer. He saw Cooper Flag dominate and was like, "I'm out."
That must have been it. He saw Cooper. Yeah, he saw Cooper Flag in those practice games and was like, "I got to get ready for the 2026 season because I'm definitely going to be going up against that guy."
No, all jokes aside, I mean, maybe it's even more than that, Justin. Like, maybe Team USA is like, we don't know if you're going to play, and I do think it's not. It's unique to kind of look at it and go, they're not replacing Kawhi Leonard with a forward, Justin. They're going to replace him with a guard. So is that a part of it? Maybe, too, is like, they're like, we didn't think you'd play. Maybe we're going to be more guard heavy this year. I mean, I think there's lots of reasons for it. But at the end of the day.
It is interesting that, like, of all the, and I don't know who would be on the list, and I don't know how the whole, is there an alternate? Was there a set of alternates? There probably was. But, and I like Derek White, good player, but like, you have Derek White, Drew Holiday, and Jason Tatum on the team. I guess they just won the finals.
Yeah.
It makes as much sense as
any.
They
sure didn't want to invite Jaylen Brown. I mean, it's, that part's interesting, but yeah, the timing of it.
But you have to get somebody, like, to replace Kawhi Leonard because I would assume he was on that list, much like Drew Holiday. You have to defend those Euro perimeter guys.
Yeah, he was a stopper, right? So Derek White's a great defender, so I think that could be a part of it. But, like, honestly, Justin, like, who else could even be in the mix where we're like, this year I didn't pay as close attention to as I did a couple years ago, but, like, there weren't very many, like, oh, wow, egregious big miss. Like, you know what I mean? It's not like I don't think Dame was seeking out the Olympics.
No, he clearly had he got his fill 3 years ago and was dealing with the injury as well. But he wasn't playing very much.
It's not like it's going to be Chris Paul at his age, even though, That's the only ring Chris Paul is going to probably get.
What about Donovan Mitchell? What
Yeah,
about? But again, I would be the worst at putting a team together
too,
because
probably.
I would not have a defender on the team.
You'd say you're tall, you shoot threes. Got it. You're
Boom.
in. Justin would build this team of 6'8" dudes who could just shoot,
or explosive guards who can get to the rack.
Yeah,
right.
that
That's
too.
fun too. But none of them would be able to defend a lick, and I'd probably be in trouble playing against France and Spain because they can shoot as well.
Is Luka playing for Slovenia, or is he opting out of the Olympics?
I thought they took a loss.
Okay, because I'm like, where are Luka and Jokic, Serbia and Slovenia and all this? Because everything you said with Pounce yesterday and even today, so true with France and Spain. I wonder if there's any of those players or teams who have like a couple years ago when it was kind of just like Rudy Gobert and that was enough to kind of carry France. I wonder if any of those teams that are headlined by a Jokic, by a Luka, Canada. Dude, watch out for Canada, man.
I said that yesterday.
Yeah, you did. And
I said that on the show yesterday.
You did. I'm giving you your due. But no, to your point, I don't know. I think.
Yeah, Slovenia was eliminated by Greece. Shout out to Giannis.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Giannis took out Slovenia.
So Luka, has Luka still got that finals hangover, Justin? Or
the only guy you've ever heard of playing for Slovenia.
It's true. It's true. But yeah, no,
because I saw the Bahamas was they were a game away with DeAndre Ayton.
Yeah, he was playing well.
And they went toe to toe with Spain. They lost to Spain, and then Greece beat Slovenia in their qualifier. So Greece is in with Giannis. Spain is in.
So maybe Greece is that team that causes some kind of ripple effects this year. But just going back to the point, Justin, when you said the headline, as sad as it is. I don't even know if sad, but it's not surprising.
It is not surprising.
It's not surprising, which is just that's the case story with Kawhi's career.
And this is why I get worried about Team USA. I really do, and I'm going to keep saying it.
There's some concern.
Does Steve Kerr have the gumption to be like, hey, LeBron, you don't get the ball in your hands at the end of the game. You just don't. And you're going to have to figure it out because it's not. It's going to Anthony Edwards, or it's going to Devin Booker, or it's going to
So it was close.
Or most, I guess Kevin Durant's probably the one that's like, hey, Kev, I know you're used to taking the last shot for, 20 years of your life. It ain't happening. Now, maybe Durant won't care, but
I wonder, because we saw some cracks 3 years ago, right? When Dame won that gold medal with that team, Popovich was the coach. You're like, how come they're struggling, right? They really, it was not like a blowout run by any means. I just wonder.
It was also a weird COVID Olympics, remember?
It was.
There was all sorts of weird restrictions.
But yeah, I'm just curious to see, like you said, how they play, because there's a lot of questions.
Well, we know that Kawhi Leonard's off the team, though. He is bounced.
Yeah,
he's out.
Going back to LA.
Thank you. All right, goodbye, Kawhi. All right, coming up next, friend of the program from the I-5 corridor, Tyson Alger joins the show next, 620 Rip City Radio. And this song might be apropos for Oregon's football recruiting and Oregon's roster building. There's no scrubs here. There are no scrubs on this roster, as our next guest, who a week ago we sat and had a conversation about the recruiting prowess of Dan Lanning and Oregon football, only to have them say over the holiday weekend, hold my beer, as Oregon lands its highest-rated prospect in program history. We are 52 days away from Oregon football kicking off. Joining us now to talk about that and whatever else we dive into, friend of the program from the I-5 corridor, TYSON Alger, back on the big show. Good morning, TYSON. How we doing?
Hey, we're doing good, man. How are you, Justin?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm a day away from vacation, so I'm in a really, really good headspace. I'm not quite like senior spring on the show because I care too much about the listeners and the guests like you who take time out of your day to come on the show. But I'm kind of halfway to Hawaii, which is where I will be tomorrow night.
You know, and that's the thing that I've heard from listeners myself is people would assume you've never been on vacation because the energy you bring every day, no matter if you're about to go to Hawaii or whatever, it's very consistent, and that's why this is the only show that I appear on Wednesday mornings at 8:28 a.m.
Exactly right. We won't talk about Mondays, but you know what? On Wednesdays at 8:20, you are right here, 10 toes down, fully participating in the big show, which I appreciate. All right, let's. Last week we talked Oregon recruiting, and I think I threw out to you, TYSON. I go, I have a hard time getting excited about the class of 2025, and it feels like the universe was just like, how about now as Oregon lands their biggest, according to ratings, again, their biggest recruit ever. First off, wide receiver named DeCorian Moore. I mean, there's not a better wide receiver name than DeCorian Moore. Like, that guy has got, 18 touchdowns just written all over him.
You can already kind of hear it rolling off of, Jerry Allen's tongue.
Yeah.
Like just, the syllables. Like he's never going to go, DK Moore. Like, he's going to go, full DeCorian with it, too.
But this is what it's also been interesting, because obviously Oregon fans get real excited, and then I've noticed that there's two things that seem to happen every time Oregon gets a big-time recruit on the internet, which the first thing that happens is USC, Ohio State, in this case Texas, or wherever else Oregon stole the recruit from, instantly comes with Phil Knight, money bag, emojis, blah, 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 which not always wrong. And then there seems to be this other thing, TYSON, that Oregon fans keep coming back with, which is it's a little bit of money, but it's more than that. And I'm of the opinion of, no, you all wanted to pay players. You knew that Oregon has the most invested and richest booster in the game. What did you all think was going to happen? But there seems to be kind of a hesitation from Oregon fans to kind of lean fully into we're buying all the players because we got all the money.
Yeah, it's USC fans and local media that keep tweeting the money bags emojis whenever the Ducks land a recruit. But that's the game now. I mean, it's legal. NIL, it's how long had we been saying that? Anytime Alabama won a title or Georgia or Texas, in their heyday of they're probably paying players under the table. Everything's above board now, and so. It's one thing if Oregon were to go pay a bag and steal a player from Oregon State, but dude, just 2 weeks ago we were seeing that video of Texas's campus of all the players lined up with their Lamborghinis and stuff. It's not like Oregon's stealing from the poor and feeding the rich here. This is just this is elite college football right now, and USC's not a poor school, Ohio State's not a poor school, Texas isn't a poor school, Oregon isn't a poor school either, and they're throwing money at it, and that's a big part of it. And I think most level-headed Oregon fans understand that's just kind of the pools you're swimming in right now. But it's I don't think it's this big wag your finger at a program if they're beating you for recruits because you were not offering as much money as they were. I don't know. It's kind of the goalposts have moved in terms of what the rules are, but now like the goalposts have also moved in terms of like how we're grading these programs, and it just seems odd to me because Oregon's on a complete tear against schools that are just as financially wealthy as they are.
Well, and here's the other part of it. Tyson Alger from the I-5 corridor joining us. The flip side, the Oregon fan response, which I will speak because I am one. It's like the tech money or the lottery money guy showing up at the country club going like, why don't they accept us? And it's like Oregon fans, they're USC, Ohio State, Michigan, Alabama, they're never going to accept you. It doesn't matter. You can recruit better than them. You can beat them. You could, heck, even maybe potentially one day win a national title. They're never going to look at you the same. And so like I know that that's tough for maybe Oregon fans to hear, but it's time for Oregon to embrace it that like, yeah, Phil Knight's buying a championship. Exactly right. That's exactly what he's going to do, hopefully. And even still, like the USCs and the Ohio States and the Alabamas are never going to accept you. You're never going to be part of their snooty old country club. So start your new cool tech country club.
The thing is like what did you expect Oregon to do with this Big Ten move? Like this is a move that the Ducks have been angling for with how they've built their program over the last 20 years. Like, do you really think that they were going to like jump into the Big Ten and just like be completely satisfied with like being like a Michigan State or, you know, just kind of like one of those like, you know, B+ teams in that conference? No, like the reason like the Ducks threw away this conference and like their history and then like their rivalry with Oregon State is because like they feel like they've built themselves into a program that deserves to be amongst the elite. And like the worst thing they could have done is jump into the Big Ten and then just play it safe. Like I think this is, you know, this is the next phase for the program, whether people like it or not.
Well, and here's the other part of it that I think is interesting because now the numbers keep getting thrown out there about who's got the highest NIL budget and what the now I think they're probably fairly close, but nothing is like it's not like the NFL where you can just look at the contracts and this guy's got a 4-year deal or the NBA or anything like that. These are all kind of guesses, even though I think they're kind of educated guesses. But it seems as though Oregon's working on a budget that is healthy, but it's not Texas. It's not Texas A&M. And I feel like both the Phil Knight money, but also, like you talked about, look at the way Oregon has built the program, the Phil Knight, Nike, and to that credit, Rob Mullins, the organizational way that they have been able to kind of spend their money smartly. Yeah, they've got a lot of money, but they also don't do a lot of dumb stuff with their money, like pay $75 million to a buyout of a coach that you had to steal from Florida State, like Texas A&M did.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, the Ducks have just like let their coaches leave. And
yeah, you just walk out on your own.
Yeah, and then they end up upgrading. Yeah, I mean, it's $75 million for a buyout. Sorry, that just kind of blew my mind for a second.
I know, it's insane. They just wrote a check.
You know, it's been Oregon's focus for like the last, like basically since the Cristobal era to like become a recruiting school. And, you know, I don't know how much stuff was above board, you know, before NIL stuff came around, but like Oregon has like been very, very, I was going to say steadily, not even steadily. It's been kind of a rocket ship from like Oregon's ascension from being a team that was like consistently in like the 20 to 25s of your recruiting rankings into like a top 10 team. So like there's been a lot of momentum behind this. Dan Lanning and his staff are very recruiting focused. And then so you open up the NIL things and then you have Phil Knight's backing behind it. Yeah, like it's like a perfect recipe for things. Like money's definitely a part of it, but also like this is a staff that is as recruiting happy as Mario Cristobal's was. They just have a little bit more room to go with it.
Well, and I also think one of the other things that I think is getting lost, and probably because the media is full of people like me who are, you know, middle-aged white dudes who I have an Instagram, but I don't quite know what I'm doing. There is another phase of this, which is if you are a very good 17-year-old football player, your Instagram followers and your Instagram traffic matters. And boy, if there was a company that knew more about marketing and you know, putting themselves in the spotlight more than anyone, it would be Nike. And so I wonder how much of that is because it's Tyson. It's weird to me. We talked about it last week. It's weird to me that Tez Johnson grew up in Alabama, and Oregon was his favorite team. It's weird to me that DeCorian Moore can be from Duncanville, Texas, and not be a Longhorn or an Aggie, and was like, yeah, I'm gonna go to Oregon, the cool school. But it seems like there is kind of this social media, Instagram thing that and some Nike clout that kind of comes along with this as well, which is it's very, very weird in this whole recruiting world. It might just be because I'm getting old.
Yeah, and it just makes it like it makes you hate that like all the cliches thrown around by the Oregon athletic department like a decade ago actually ended up turning out to be true. Because like I couldn't tell you how many times like they'd embed like national brand into like anything that they possibly could, but like that complete focus, and then with the uniforms and the Nike backing like that made it so kids in Florida or Texas or New York or all across the country like are that aware of the Oregon brand. And then you couple it with like, again, Oregon's not the only school that has a lot of money in NIL, but there are also a lot of NIL programs that like only have money and not a whole lot of direction. And Oregon's is a combination of the two, where you do have a lot of money and then you also have the backing of one of the most talented and prestigious branding companies like in world history. Like, yeah, that's like a pretty good combination.
Tyson Alger from the I-5 corridor joining us on 620 Rip City Radio. Last recruiting question, because again, this is it's been an unbelievable recruiting 2 weeks. But I go back and I think of that first game that Oregon had against Georgia, and obviously that was a bloodbath. It was a rout, and they clearly were not at that level. And I remember like that week, Kirby Smart was like, yeah, Dan's going to get it figured out. Or it wasn't even that week. It was post-game. It's like, yeah, Dan's going to get it figured out. He just doesn't have the guys now. Right. And every Oregon fan grasped their check. What do you mean? We've been recruiting at a top 10 level. And this is where you learn, like, boy, there's top 15 good, there's top 10 good, then there's top 5 good, where you see where Georgia and Alabama and those teams that are playing at the highest of all levels. It's funny thinking back where Oregon recruiting was under Cristobal, like you said, that had taken a huge leap forward, yet Kirby Smart still looked back and was like, yeah, they don't have the guys yet. And you go, man, there was a whole nother level, and it feels like Dan Lanning's kind of tapping into it.
That kind of feels like it's either like the start of the championship DVD or either like Lanning's like Joker origin story. Yes. of just that post-game press conference of them laying 50 points on you and then just saying like, he's a good coach, but your players aren't good enough. And so, yeah, I mean, like I was thinking about it today too. And it's like, yeah, they just signed, they got a commitment from DeCorian Moore, and he's the best player in program history. And it feels like they say that every few years because, it was Kayvon Thibodeau and Justin Flo and those guys. But like, you look at the players Oregon has signed this year, and it's like, yeah, he's the best player, but he's the second 5-star receiver that they have committed. Like he's the I think the third or fourth 5-star of the class. Like it used to be like Oregon would get one of these guys, and that would be like the main pedestal of their class, and everybody would know their name and that sort of thing. And now it's just like, yeah, like they got this good dude, but he's just like amongst a sea of really good dudes, and it's kind of getting harder to keep track of like, the hierarchy of the 5-stars in the recruiting pool.
Tyson Alger from the I-5 corridor joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. All right, Tyson, I'm going to take you away from football. I'm going to take you away from the I-5 corridor. I'm going to take you away from the great country of the United States, and I want to go across the pond because I don't know if a lot of people know this about you. You've talked about it on the show a handful of times. Your dad, big-time squash guy, I believe was a professional squash player. And so now I just assume that all racket sports know everything about all the other racket sports. But you know a fair amount about tennis and about the All England Lawn and Tennis Club and what's going on in Wimbledon. So are you ready for my really dumb tennis take? It might even be dumber than my my hockey takes.
Yeah, just let me put down my berries and cream and get ready for this one.
Love it. Get on your all whites. And by the way, strawberries and cream with all whites, bad combo. As a guy who is a spiller, tough combo. So I'm watching Wimbledon. I'm up early on the holiday weekend. I'm watching Wimbledon. I'm watching Tiafoe because I'm rooting for him. Almost pulls off the upset against Alcaraz. Had him in the fourth set tiebreaker. And then I'm watching this, Tyson, and I'm looking at the tiebreaker, And in tennis, they go 15 and then 30 and then 40, and then sometimes it's a deuce, even though it's not 2, and then sometimes it's advantage. And then they go to the tiebreaker, where they just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Shouldn't the tiebreaker just be tennis? Can we just make the tiebreaker tennis?
I think so. Like I remember going to like tennis camps when I was a kid, and like, you know, when you're in the like the 5-6 year old age group, like half the camp is just explaining like the scoring system, and you know, like they're talking to the kids like they're the idiots because they're not the ones that like who don't understand. Yeah, like 2 points is 30. You know. Again, as you mentioned at the top, I play a real sport. I play a sophisticated sport. I play squash, which goes 1, 2. You know what comes after 2? 3, and then it's 4, and then it's 5, and then you won't believe this, but 6. Yeah, like it's funny that tennis gets like so like staunch about like its sophisticated scoring system, and then just jumps straight to one by one for the tiebreaker.
Well,
I agree.
I say this as a football fan, and I understand that, look, hey, a touchdown, it's worth 6, sometimes 7, sometimes 8. Kicking it through is worth 3, but sometimes it's just 1. And then there's the safety, which seems to be the hardest thing to do in all of the sports. So is it score the most points? No, that's actually 2. Like, I get that football scoring is kind of dumb. Hey, 21-7, what a big win. It was 3-1. I mean, let's pump the brakes. But it's not like they change it in, like, the middle, right? And I'm just watching tennis tiebreaker, and I'm going like, oh, so you could do it. You actually do do it, and just one guy serves, and he gets a point, and then that's 1, and then you don't do the whole jump to 15. So I was like, yeah, why don't they just make the tiebreaker tennis?
Maybe when they were like initially like creating the rules, they were thinking that like, okay, if you win like on your first serve, you get 15. If it's second serve, like maybe 8. Like they were trying to incorporate some nuance into it, and then you know how it gets. You get down to the editing process, you get some corporate guy who comes in and you know just doesn't pay attention to the details, makes some big changes, and you know that's how you get 15 love.
I mean, then it's with love being 0, and that might just be the fact that British and European English is different than our English. I don't know. Do they just use love all the time there as like 0? That would be hilarious.
Aloha, kind of like, you know, like the same thing.
Well,
have a couple different,
well, I got to learn that. I'm going to be in the Aloha State coming up tomorrow night. I'm very, very excited about that. So not to vacation brag on you or the listening audience, but yeah, the Aloha State, which you used to work at in Hawaii. That was like your first gig, right?
It was. I used to be the sports editor of the Garden Island newspaper on Kauai, Hawaii, and my Justin Myers instead was a fellow by the name of Ron Wiley on Kong.
Well, I'm going to be actually on Kauai. I'm going to be near Poipu Beach. Maybe I'll find Ron, and we'll have some Mai Tais together.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure Ron would treat you to many.
TYSON ALGER, if you're not subscribed to the I-5 Corridor, what the heck are you doing? Get subscribed to the I-5 Corridor. Follow him on X or Twitter at TYSON ALGER. What do we got? What's coming down the corridor? What's on the way?
We have beginning. It's a little slow at the end of this week, but next week we're coming with our big football preview content. So we're gearing up here.
Fantastic. So you can, again, i5corridor.com. There's a hyphen in there. Also at TYSON ALGER, where you can find the link and all the great stuff. Hey, Tyson, thanks so much. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll look forward to talking to you next week.
Yeah, have a great vacation, buddy.
I appreciate it. There you go, TYSON ALGER. Yeah, Brenden, I'm watching. You play tennis? You're a Sherwood Bowman tennis letterman. And I'm like, all right, I know there's weird scoring. There's weird scoring in football. I get it. But then they do the tie break, and I'm like, all right, so we could do it. Just one, like, 1st to 7, win by 2. Like, we could do it. But, like, you're just kind of being stubborn about the whole 15-30 love thing at this point.
Not the easiest scoring system to learn as a kid.
It's really, but then you do the tie break, and they just do, like, got it. So you are capable. All right. We've got the RCM mailbag. That's next. 620 Rip City Radio. All right, time to wrap up the big show. Before we do, Rip City Radio wants to line your pockets. Grand Slam Cash. Make sure you listen for the keywords each and every weekday from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. on the 15s for your chance to win $1,000 13 times a day. It's Grand Slam Cash from Rip City Radio, sponsored by the Hillsboro Hops. Get all the details at ripcityradio.com. All right, it is that time of the big show. Time to wrap it up and get you ready to attack your Wednesday. It is time for the RCM mailbag. Here we go. By the way, I did see a couple of people in the YouTube chat talking about getting the flirty, attractive service work, and it was like, oh yeah, one time somebody asked me if I had plans, and then I came back and was like, yep, turns out they ask everybody that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, shout out Tony.
Okay, who's the biggest?
I told you I've done this.
The toughest one, right? It's bartender or barista, I think. Those are, and I will throw beverage cart girl, but that's pretty niche in that you have to. Most people either go to a bar or go to a coffee shop, right? And I would say
Waitress?
What's that?
Waitress?
Waitress. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, because my one time of doing this and having success was waitress.
Waitress.
Yes.
So, yeah.
But granted, I don't condone this at 28 years old. I
Cute
condone
waitress.
it more at 18.
Cute bartender, cute barista. Who are you most susceptible? I think it's probably bartender because you're drinking.
Yeah. You know, alcohol is the his lifeblood
Dude,
in that case.
I know it's going to sound crazy, but every once in a while, and while, like I said, I see it every once in a while, like a barista will give you a little, and I'm like, nope. There's a tip jar right there, and good for them. And or also, how about this crazy thought? Maybe they're just nice.
Yeah,
maybe just a nice person.
It's entirely true too. Entirely true.
Oh, all right.
That was great. That was great. I mean, it's like I said. You know, I'd be willing to bet there's more of you that have than have not.
I guess probably you just want to kind of believe. I'll be honest. I love and adore my wife. And I've even told her every once in a while I'll get like and I'm like, man, that feels good. You know, like like at the gym, just get like, hey, and I'm like, boy, that just feels good. So I think maybe people just want to believe it, but yeah. Don't give $3 million over 10 years to an exotic dancer, and because you thought you were in an actual relationship.
Yeah, I think there must have been some. I have questions, put it that way, and I imagine. So would the judge who sees that lawsuit, Justin, just like, oh, you're suing her over what now? Yeah, got it.
Well, I mean, and I don't know how many people watched the Donald Sterling, like the clipped, but it was like, oh, it's assistant, huh? So he bought you it's a Ferrari? Okay. Got it.
Now, again, we'll get in the mailbag in just a second, Justin,
Yeah.
but you just mentioned not even so much of a hot take, but just, I'm assuming I hated the way Clipped ended. Did you finish it?
I did.
Yeah, I'm like, granted, we knew how the whole story was going to go, but it just felt like it was like, oh, just like drop off a cliff. Like, just the way that it ended was so terribly. I'm like, yeah, not quite as had higher expectations. I'll say that.
Well, I think it's tough to end anything.
Right.
One,
sure.
and two,
we're learning that.
especially one that's like
A true story.
yeah, because the ending's not very satisfying. You're like, oh, he's a
It's
terrible,
not.
terrible person. $4 billion is what he got.
Yeah.
All right.
And we get to see, the Steve Ballmer actor. I'm like, come on now. Like, come on. Trying to get his, textbook toilets excitement and everything. I'm like, all right. So I'll give it a solid, C+, some good moments. But, yeah, the player casting for me, Justin, it just, I can't take the dude who's talking as Steph Curry seriously.
I know. You can't. It's just why you can't do. You have to wait years and years and years.
Yeah,
before you can go back.
But yeah, let's go ahead and get into the mailbag. Justin, you mentioned something earlier. You mentioned Game of Thrones and who makes those chess pieces that they use to move around the board when moving their armies and basically planning everything. In a much bigger sense,
there's a lot of knickknacks, I would say, in the House of the Dragon, right? They got the little marble That thing?
Yes.
I don't know what that means.
It's like to say I'm here. It's
but
like
even though you're sitting there.
yeah, it's
but
like it's an attendance marble, Justin.
got it.
No, I don't know. I'm a question with this. What do you think? Let's just say the Myers house.
The House of Myers. Yeah.
House of Myers is going back. What do you think? What would you do? What do you think you would do at that timeline for like would you be a blacksmith? Would you be a be a sea
Brenden.
captain? Would you be a dragon rider? What would you be, Justin?
Brenden, it's pretty clear what I would be. Court jester. All right. I'm just here to goof off. And
well said, my
can
friend.
can you throw me a couple shekels my way? Can you throw a couple
Question is though,
maybe a couple of glasses of your ale and maybe some crusty bread, and I shall do the dance for you as I do each and every morning, which I enjoy and I love coming out. Like Tyson talked about it, and I am pretty self-aware as a radio host. I'm not the smartest basketball mind. I don't know half the players we talk about. You got to tell me. I love college football. I love it an awful lot, but I am kind of stuck in my old ways. One thing I know that I got as good of, if not better than anybody, is I can show up and I can be high energy for 3 hours. I can.
Now, my question is,
every single day I'm going to show up and I'm going to bring the energy, because nobody wants to hear a low energy morning show host, right? You're already driving to work. So I would show up and I would do the dance for the king, and I was like, all right, where's my wine? That's all I want.
so yeah, I think good call. I think you'd have to be cautious of which king you are, because you could upset Joffrey and you lose your head that afternoon. You could upset.
Yeah, Jester is a little tough.
You could upset Aegon and lose your head that afternoon.
But I think I do a pretty good job of not being controversial, right?
You keep them happy even if they're in a crabby mood.
I know.
You know what I mean?
Listen, you got to learn.
Kings are always crabby.
Can I tell you, in this business, you got to learn where your bread is buttered. And you know what? If you upset the apple cart, or there are topics we tend not to touch, because you want to know why? I know where my bread is buttered.
Yes, sir.
And I don't need that smoke. So I would be like, I'd be making fun of everybody else. Hey, look at those dirty poor people out there. That would be me. I would be the court jester. Haven't really seen one though on Game of Thrones. So maybe
no jesters, really.
I would have to create what would be the Game of Thrones Dragon House version of like a radio broadcaster. Hey, did you hear about this? Go with hot takes on dragons and everything else. I think this dragon's potentially overrated. All right, that's going to do it for the big show. Thanks to Tyson Alger. Thanks to super producer Brenden. Thanks to all of you. Have a terrific Wednesday. We'll talk to you tomorrow morning here on 620 Rip City Radio.